Not very often. Members, please come to the chamber for a quorum. Members, please come to the chamber for a quorum so we can get started on time.
The House will come to order. Members of prayer today will be given by Tanya West. She is the pastor of Fountain of Hope Praise and Worship Ministry here in Montgomery. and is the guest of Representative Ensler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House, for offering me this opportunity. I invite you to join me in prayer. Gracious God, it is our petition today that you will allow everything that we do to begin with your inspiration and continue with your help, so that our prayers and works are deemed pleasing in your sight and according to your divine will. While there are differences in opinions at times, we pray that mandate of each day. Endow us with grace needed to work together in the spirit of collaboration so that the needs of all Alabamians are met. Gracious God, as these men and women work tirelessly on behalf of the citizens of Alabama, it is my prayer that they will remember to practice self-care emotionally and physically. I pray that those that are enduring illnesses will experience your healing virtue. May their husbands, wives, children, parents, siblings, and extended family members experience your grace. Strengthen each member of the house and grant them the wisdom needed for their individual assignments. May your light shine brightly through them all the days of their lives. For you are God forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. Members, today's Pledge of Allegiance will be given by Kama Cook. She is an 11th grader at Horseshoe Bend High School and is the guest of Representative Aller.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, call roll.
Mr. Speaker, Allman, Baker, Bedsole, Blackshear, Bolton, Boyd, Bracy, Brinyard, Brown, Butler, Carnes, Chestnut, Clark, Klaus, Collins, Colvin, Crawford, Daniels, Datcher, Drummond, Dearbos, Easterbrook, Ellis, England, Ensler, Estes, Faulkner, Fiddler, Fincher, Fort, Garrett, Gidley, Gavan, Gibbons, Gray, Hall, Hammett, Harbison, Harrison, Hassel, Hendricks, Hill, Hope, Jones, Hollis, Halsey, Hurst, Ingram, Jackson, Jones, Keel, Kirkland, Lamb, Lands, Lawrence, Lee, Lipscomb, Lomax, Lovern, Marcus, McCampbell, McClammy, Mooney, Moore M, Moore P, Morris, Oliver, Paramore, Pascal, Pettis, Pringle, Rafferty, Ream, Reynolds, Rigsby, Robbins, Robertson, Ross, Sellers, Sells, Shaver, Shaw, Shiree, Simpson, Smith, Sorrell, Stodhagen, Standridge, Starnes, Stringer, Stubbs, Tillman, Travis, Treadaway, Underwood, Wadsworth, Warren, Whit, Wharton, Wilcox, Wood D, Wood R, Woods, Yarborough.
Seventy-one members have answered the roll. Quorum is present. The House is ready to transact business. Chair recognizes Chairman Lovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request that leaves of absence be granted for absent members.
Any objections? Hearing no objections, absent members are granted. Chair further recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Mr. Speaker, I have a report.
House of Representatives, your Standing Committee on Rules begs leave to report that it has carefully examined the Journal of the House for the 11th legislative day and finds the same to be correct. Signed, Representative Joe Lovern, Chair.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the reading of the journal at length for the 11th legislative day be dispensed with.
Any objections? Hearing no objections, reading the journal is dispensed with. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Pro Tem Pringle, for the purpose of making announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight at 5 p.m. begins us winning the softball tournament again at Riverwalk Stadium. Please don't forget Cap prayer breakfast tomorrow at 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. in the RSA Plaza on the 6th floor.
Mr. Pro Tem, you're further recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I move that when we adjourn today, we leave the journal open to allow the clerk to complete his paperwork, and we reconvene on Thursday, March 6th at 9:30 a.m. tomorrow morning.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion prevails. Clerk's now in position to receive reports, see those standing committees throughout the day. The House is now in position for introducing bills and resolutions. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a resolution.
Clerk, see the resolution.
House Resolution number 114 by the House Rules Committee, the special order calendar.
Chairman Lovern, you're recognized.
Move for adoption.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted. Ms. Clerk, let's call the first bill on the special order calendar.
On page 11 of the calendar, House Bill number 233 by Representative Baker, relating to crimes and offenses.
Chairman Baker, before you get started, let me give a couple of these out. They have kind of piled up on me. We got the College Republicans Federation of Alabama, House Representatives, and the House Caucus. Congratulations on being with us today, and thank you for being part of our day. Also, we have Montgomery City Councilman, members of the Montgomery delegation. Thank you guys for being with us. Let's give these people a big hand. Thank you. Also, we got Michael Dunnigan, Tuscaloosa, is also a former member of the Georgia legislature. Thank you for being with us. A guest of Cynthia Almond. And then the students from the University of Alabama, Roll Tide. Members of the Tuscaloosa delegation. Thank you all for being with us. Let's give these people a big hand for them. Chairman Baker, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to commend you. I think this being somewhat, several bills on today's calendar being somewhat school safety theme, and I much applaud you and your leadership in creating a school safety commission to continue to look at things. We actually had a commission back in 2017, but here you are continuing. I think that you want us to stay vigilant in terms of our school safety measures that we're trying to enact and stay on top of. So thank you so much for your work on that. As much so, I'd also recognize the Chairwoman Collins, who has chaired that commission. But thank you again for your work in helping to create that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for your work.
Members, what I have before you, this is a bill that involves terrorist threats, which in the school year, this early school year, there seemed to be a heightened flurry of school-related terrorist threats relative to the schools. And so with that, this is really the impetus behind this bill, is trying to curtail some of that to the best of our abilities. The thing that made it quite difficult was in the local jurisdictions where there might have been, such as a call-in or either a student reporting to another student they're going to blow up the school, and now the school officials have to go ahead and treat that as a credible threat. However, when it came time maybe to try to prosecute, such as it could be a student or someone else, it had to be proven that it must be not only credible, but it must be imminent, that they had the ability to be able to carry out that threat. So this bill changes that. So this would allow then for, in the second degree, it still would have the heightened level at the first degree of a terrorist threat, but on the second degree, it would remove the requirement that it must be credible and imminent. So it could be a kid that's calling in a hoax and such, and so that's what this bill does. It allows for a district attorney to be able to bring charges, whereas before they had no basis to bring charges because it may not be deemed to be credible or imminent. I would also add this. A lot of people think it's not that big of a deal. Anytime that there's a threat that is called in, or whether it be maybe communicated by a student, it's where school officials must go ahead and law enforcement must treat that as a credible threat. You're talking about the expenses involved with law enforcement to check out to make sure on that threat whether it was credible or later is deemed not to be. As well, not only that, the disruption to the school day. You might have parents that may not send their kids back to school for the next 3 or 4 days thereafter because of the panic that might have occurred with that threat that had been either called in or communicated. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'll be glad then to entertain any questions if we move forward and move for adopting the BR.
Chair recognizes the lady from Madison, Representative Hall. I'd also like to recognize the Greater Leadership Huntsville Flagship Class 38 guest of Chairman Reynolds. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But the gentleman yield.
Certainly.
So I want to make sure I'm clear. There's a lot of noise going on in here. You're removing the requirement that a threat must be credible and imminent.
That is correct. That is for a terrorist threat in the second degree only. And it would still be...
What do you mean in the second degree, in terms of the
there are
charge?
2 degrees of a terrorist threat. There's the first degree, and that's mentioned in the bill earlier. If you want me to draw your attention to that, I can draw your attention where that is. That language is not being touched, really. It's more so in there, just preliminary language prior to the substantive change, which is on terrorist act in the second degree. So there are varied
Hold
levels.
on, just a minute. Am I supposed to have a substitute too? You have a substitute?
No. Yes, I do. We do have a substitute with some changes. Yes, so we will.
I need to make sure I'm talking from the right. So I'm talking based on the bill that was introduced. So you have not. So the bill.
So I stand corrected. That's actually I've got another bill, the next bill coming up. So I stand corrected. I do have a
That's a sign
substitute
that you have
on
too
that.
many bills. That's what that is.
So I apologize. No
Okay.
substitute on this. This is all
Maybe
verbatim
you're
as
trying
well.
to confuse me. All right.
My apologies.
No problem. So, are you removing this, the requirement that it must be credible based on what? What is that based on?
So once there's been a call in, I don't know if you recall back early during the school year, there were a number of threats called in nationwide, even here in Alabama. And there were so you have schools now that are having to immediately put the brakes on, stop instructional
Of
school.
course.
And then from there, you've got law enforcement that just comes onto the campus and begins to scour the area and deal with whatever it might be, the threat and such. They've got to go ahead and treat it as if it is credible and could be imminent, could be something's about to happen. So it takes all those resources. You're talking about the instructional day has been compromised, maybe not only for that day, it may be for the next subsequent days when parents fail to send their kids to school because they panicked over this call in for a threat. And so there's a lot of resources that are devoted to that, as well as the compromised instructional time during that. So it's where DAs, district attorneys, they did not have a basis to charge the student or the perpetrator, even if they could be in their early 20s or whatever. They've called this in, and they did not have the basis because they could not prove that actually they could carry out the threat.
So how much data do we have to come up with this? Because I don't want us to do something and we make the mistake thinking that it's not credible. There is, I don't want us to reach a situation where it may not appear that it's credible.
No.
And it is credible and something serious happened. And
Can I respond on that real quick?
I'd rather be on I'd rather be on the wrong side.
I am 100% fully with you on that. So I think what you might be misconstruing or misunderstanding, maybe I haven't communicated it well. So this does not absolve the law enforcement or the school officials of their due diligence to treat every threat as if it's a credible threat. And so that's what I was remarking earlier. Every threat must be treated and deemed as if it is credible and imminent that it's about to occur until they can prove otherwise. But now the perpetrator that called in, if we want to use the word hoax, called in, it was a hoax. It wasn't a real threat. They called it in, but now the DA has no basis to charge them.
But when you, anyway, let's go to page 2.
Sure.
So on the page 2, you removed threaten. You removed that the person intentionally and knowingly it's making a. It seems of those things all the way up to the top of page 3. So why did we remove that? Is that where you are in terms of your response to this? That it may be a hoax?
Yeah,
I'm at the bottom of page 2 and page 3. And we're making this major change. That's a major change.
Yeah, well, it's a change because so a threat, as it is right now under current legislation in Alabama, is only really considered a threat if it's credible and imminent.
Credible and imminent.
Imminent. It's
Okay.
only considered a threat. So threat need to be broadened. So it's where we retain the terrorist threat in the first degree. So everything still stays the same. No removing of any language on that. It must still be proven that it was credible and imminent in the first degree. But in the second degree, it was felt that there must be sort of a lesser threshold, and it could just simply be a kid trying to be mischievous. They didn't think it was any big deal, not knowing all the law enforcement or the disruption to the school day or days ahead to all of that, and they didn't understand that. And yet, so this now allows then a DA at least to be able to move forward.
Even
though
with
it
that
may-
child that you're talking about, that may have been just doing it because somebody dared him to create that situation.
Certainly. But let me say this though once again. But that threat, a lot of people, it's just a kid being a kid, just pulling a prank, a hoax, and all, no big deal. You're talking about the resources that go into that.
I understand
You're talking
that.
about the panic that goes to the parents, and many parents trying to hurry to the school to try to do whatever they can with their kid, get them out of that environment and such. So it's really quite disruptive to the process, the resources, the cost involved, the manpower, the disruption to instruction. I mean, to me, we need to see if we can curtail this, see if we can try to at least maybe reduce the amount of those call-in that might be a hoax, a threat, or just simply a kid being a kid trying to pull a prank.
So will you do me a favor and go to page 4? So this is the threat is made against an elected public official, his or her staff. That's already in the law.
Tell me again what you're on page 4.
Page 4, line 98.
Okay. So what did you have a question? I'm sorry.
It's starting at line 98,
Right.
moving down. You see where I am?
Yes, I do.
So the threat is made against an elected public official or his or her staff.
Right.
So this is all a part of even the judges that we did for the judicial.
Yeah. So
and all of
this
that.
was already existing
That's already, right.
already existing language in the code.
Okay, so when you go down this, tell me about the purpose of a person threatens another when. So this is this related to the public official? I thought we were talking about the schools.
Well, this is part of what could be. That's not the only thing. If you go back
I
up,
understand. That's what I'm just trying, because what I heard was what happens at schools. I did not hear anything about public officials and the things that may happen against it. This has been added as well, right?
right. They're right. So it could be. That does, if you're asking, does that still qualify as a terrorist threat if it's made to a public official? Yes, that still does qualify. That doesn't change. You'll notice that's number 4. So there's actually 3 other criteria of what could cause that to be deemed a threat. 1, 2, 3, and 4 is against a public official.
You're looking at, you're still on page 4.
I'm still, well, actually, but what I'm saying is number 4, if you understand, there's the earlier numbers, 3, and then on the previous page, 2 and 1. So I think all those need to be factored in, as well as what might cause it to be a threat. And one of those is that it could be against a public or elected official.
All right, and then let's go to page 5. I think C, the statement causes the person to be reasonably be in sustained fear for his or her own safety for the object. So that's a part of that. And then down the line 125. And this is dealing with making a terrorist threat in the first degree. And that becomes a Class C felony.
No. First degree, but from 119 down, lines 119 on page 5, 119
Okay.
all the way to the bottom, that's all speaking of second degree. That's all relative to second degree. Just above that, 113, lines 113 through 118, that deals with the first degree. So that's,
No, go back. 113 and 114, you're saying is the first degree?
correct.
Then, so when you get to 116, it says, okay, the first degree, but it's a Class C felony in the first
Right.
degree.
The lady's time has expired.
That's what's already in place right now.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson, Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The gentleman yield.
Certainly.
First, I want to thank you for all your efforts you've put into school safety, the whole school safety topic. You bring a lot of experience from your background as a public educator for many, many years. You know the way the school systems are today and how the evolution of that has happened. I also want to say this is an important issue you're addressing here because we've seen more and more instances that are need to be some guidance and better understanding of how to handle. So this bill accomplishes that. So I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your remarks. Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Representative Jackson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the gentleman. Being a retired educator myself, we never had these type things when we were teaching school. Maybe playing hooky was about the biggest thing that we did, but threatening the school with bombs and stuff was not prevalent in that day. Now, what is the law now?
That's what I addressed earlier, but I'll go over that again. So the law now is that for a terrorist threat, for a district attorney to be able to have a basis for bringing charges, they must be able to prove that it was a credible and imminent threat. That's whether it be in the first degree or second degree. That's current law as it is right now. So this particular bill would change in the second degree to allow it then that it would remove the language that it had to be proven that it must be credible and imminent. In other words, it could simply be a hoax, a call-in, or whatever to disrupt the school environment.
What's the difference between the credible and imminent?
What's the difference between credible and imminent?
Yes.
Well, if something is credible, then that means that it's believed that it can be carried out. If it's incredulous,
Any
then it
threat could
doesn't.
be carried out.
What's that?
Any threat could be carried out.
For example,
I mean, you can't take this stuff for granted.
I'll give an example. So, for example, if let's say the call comes in and that there's a bomb that's stated it's on the science wing, of this school, this high school, and so now it's where school officials immediately go into whatever their lockdown mode and safety mode and such as that, or evacuation, whatever they would do in regards to their procedures. But from there, then law enforcement intervenes, school officials intervene, and then you've got all just the disruption, all this going on with that. But so with that, that would be then, so now if they check into it, they find out, they find out, okay, it was this person that initiated the call. They did it maybe from there's no longer the phone booths out there, so maybe they did it from their cell phone, okay? So from there, now they try to look and find then at the kid's home and all. They can't find any bomb, explosive making, type materials or any of that. They either go through maybe research on their phone and such, can't find that they've been sort of doing research on how to make a bomb. And so if you understand, now they have maybe disproved that actually it wasn't an actual credible threat. It simply was a kid trying to disrupt the school environment for whatever reason or trying to bring attention to something just for whatever their motivation might have been.
Now, would I receive a call from some anonymous person out there saying that something gonna happen at a school, I gotta treat that as credible.
I think any and every threat has to be treated as credible until
Now,
it can be proven
now you're
otherwise.
saying to be intimate that you gotta. You check their phone and see if they've been getting the bum making.
Yeah.
So,
Imminent means then it's about to be carried out. Since the call came in, and it's not like, well, hey, it may be happening in about a month or 3 months. No, that means that there's the potential that it could be happening. I mean, that is very quickly.
okay, is there a felony now, a misdemeanor for a threat to be called in, whether it's credible or not?
It all depends. If it's terrorist threat in the first degree, then it would be terrorist threat. A terrorist threat in the first degree, then it would be a Class C felony. Right now, for a terrorist threat in the second degree would be a Class A misdemeanor. So this doesn't change. It's still a Class A.
This doesn't change the law at all.
It does change because now, but if there's a second and subsequent on that, we're talking about, what this bill is changing is a terrorist threat in the second degree, which right now, what goes with that is a Class A misdemeanor. But what happens is now if they make a second or subsequent, that is more than one, now it elevates them to a Class B felony.
Okay, now when that happens, who is charged? The person or the parents?
No, this would, I think it would be the perpetrator.
The individual that called in.
The way I understand, I think it's the perpetrator.
Even though it's a student.
The way I understand.
Oh, no, don't have to really be a student. It's any credible threat that comes in.
The perpetrator that initiated the threat.
Okay, all right. I thank you, and I appreciate this because we don't ever know what's going on around us.
Right.
Especially with our children.
Right.
You know, and I want to say this, and you're bringing this legislation. There's so much going on in our schools today, bullying and stuff, and so kids get upset and they'll do some things.
A lot of concerns out there.
But when they do that and it's not intimate, we need to get some psychological help for those persons that's gone through these changes and why these things occur. So I thank you for bringing this legislation.
So much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Chair, thanks the gentleman. Chair recognize the lady from Morgan, Chairwoman Collins. Be the fourth person to speak on the BIR.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Speaker. Representative Baker, I want to thank you for bringing these. I want to thank you for the work that you do on these bills before you bring them to the House floor and even before committee. I think my favorite parts about this is strengthening the penalties for repeat offenders and also aligning with the national standards. So I want to thank you for your work.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your leadership on the School Safety Commission.
Thank you.
Not just most recently, but even back in our first one, back in 2017. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair, thanks the lady. The question for the body now is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 103 ayes, 0 nays. The BR has been adopted. Chairman Baker.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I would move for final passage.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I just want to announce that the Rules Committee will meet at 3:45 in room 617. 3:45, room 617. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Representative Bracy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
Certainly.
I had a couple of questions. I guess when I look at what we're doing here, I just want some clarity. And I guess I have some concerns. Of course, I voted for the bill. I'm not 100% sure on where we're going with it. And it's a couple of breaks in here that hopefully we can clarify. And, you know, the fourth bill on the calendar today, it kind of brings me some concern. It's kind of like right here, we're looking at doing some things to strengthen some things, to help with security, to make sure that we protect our students as much as possible. We're trying to get rid of the threats and things because we know that these things can happen. I mean, we've seen it happen, you know, this school year locally in our area. And I guess it concerns me because I think any means of getting communication outside is important. As important as trying to make an arrest and a conviction of a person, whether the threat is a legitimate threat or not. But in case if it is a legitimate threat, you know, I think we need to be able to go the extra mile to make sure that everybody on the outside that needs to know what's going on can know what's going on.
Agreed.
And so I guess it's almost like an oxymoron to me. Some of the things that we're doing and some of the things that we're not doing today, it just don't quite add up to me. But I think we all have the right intentions. We're trying to go down the same road, but it just doesn't appear to be like we all on the same train. You know what I'm saying? You get an idea of what I'm saying? So we're looking at two different types of felonies. We're looking at Class C felonies and Class D felonies, and I guess some of my conversation that I was kind of leaning on with that will be saved for a little bit later today, with the whole cell phone school thing. Like, it's just the whole safety school thing. To me, it should be kind of one big comprehensive thing on how we look at it, and not really a piece by piece approach that I feel like we're kind of taking with panic situations, with prosecution, and, you know, credible threats. And, you know, if a credible threat is happening, we need to be able to get that information out as fast as possible, whether that's through tweeting or, you know, Facebook or Messenger or text message or calling or FaceTime or whatever the case is. You know, parents need to know. Law enforcement definitely need to know. But in this particular situation, do we have an age break in here?
Say that again?
An age break. Do we have an age break in here?
No, there's nothing relative to age within this bill.
Okay, so let's say, so if we have a threat that comes from a 30-year-old habitual criminal, do we treat that the same as we would as a fifth grader in the 11th grade? How do we determine the difference?
This bill, with the discretion, falls on the shoulders of the district attorneys, right? The DAs. So this bill isn't trying to direct them how that discretion. We're not trying to steer them. They've got to make those best decisions relative to the dynamics of that particular case, the individual, everything that's part of that. So this bill is not dealing with actually trying to take away from the discretion of the district attorneys, allow them to make that determination.
Okay, now, but we have some language in place that pretty much states that if this happens, then we're here, or if this happens, then we're here, right?
If I might, do you mind? Can I?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
yes, sir.
So this does not require, for example, it's already a Class A misdemeanor for a terrorist threat in the second degree.
Right, but we're
And so
moving it up
this
from a
continues
Class
to this,
A to the Class.
But let me even say with that, So being it's a Class A misdemeanor doesn't mean now a perpetrator of a terrorist threat has to be charged with a misdemeanor. It may be deemed by the DA, they decide not to press charges, bring charges. So the discretion is still on the shoulders of that DA. It's not a requirement. It's simply this allows them and makes it where they now can apply this particular offense then and apply the charges thereof as a misdemeanor. But what this does do that's not in previous legislation that we're currently on right now, and that is if they do it more than once, now it can become, it doesn't mean that it must be then, or they've got to charge them now with a Class D felony, but it does give them that ability to be able to elevate that to a Class D felony.
Okay, so what do we think elevating is gonna do? The elevation, because one thing that we know is not a lot of difference between the A-class misdemeanor and the Class D felony, besides the fact that you have a felony on your record that you're gonna have. Like, what do we think that is gonna do to deter, this type of activity? Because I don't think, because especially for children, I don't think children, to me, their minds are not quite developed to the point of being able to just make rational decisions all the time. Like, I don't think that you or I would call in a bomb threat to a school. That's not to say that the 11-year-old, 10-year-old you or I, we don't, probably not, but chances are that kids would probably be more involved with this. Now, the real threats will probably be adults or probably middle school age kids, where we start to see that more often. But we're looking at the option for a felony, a D-class felony, and also a C-class felony in some of these cases, because you got first degree and second degree we're looking at.
Let's, if I may then, let's make it apples to apples. On the first degree terrorist threat, where that could be a Class C felony, that's where it must be deemed, okay, there was a threat, and that was a doggone show enough for real. That was a real threat.
Okay.
And so that's the distinction. So I want to make sure we're apples to apples. Now, with a terrorist threat in the second degree, that's where it doesn't have to be deemed as credible. Then that language has been removed. So it's simply where it could be simply the hoax, the call-in. But with that, and I think you made reference, we had it down, in some of our areas in southwest Alabama and all, these threats. And it's like, well, now, okay, they've done it once, so we don't change that. It still is a Class A misdemeanor. That's what the law is right now. This isn't changing that. But now when they do it a second time, third time, hey, the disruption, you understand the law enforcement resources, everything shuts down at that school because they've got to treat every threat as credible.
But the Class A misdemeanor in the Class D felony is just taking the place of the A-class misdemeanor at this point, right?
No, that's on a second or subsequent, second, third, fourth, whatever.
Okay, offense.
Threat, yeah, offense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, so we're going to give the DA the discretion, I guess, to just kind of be able to look back on the history, of the perpetrator and see if there's something that we need to move forward with a felony on, but we still have the options to look at some of the minor misdemeanor charges with this?
The bill doesn't address that. Once again, my statement sort of earlier, this bill really isn't in any way then usurping any way of the power of the district attorney to be able to make those decisions based on, because I think with any case, and in my mind, I think every scenario could be different, the dynamics, and that's why I think a district attorney would be very wise, very prudent. That is not to treat everyone, okay, it's a one size fits all, one standard for all, but instead let's look at, so it could be where charges are waived on one particular incident perpetrator, and then on another it could be a different scenario and where charges could be applied.
Okay, and I know my time is, but I guess the age where this person is a juvenile.
Gentleman's time has
adult
expired.
Is what concerns me. Thank you.
Question for the body now is final passage of HB 233. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 90 ayes, 0 nays. HB 233 has passed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Clerk, call off the next bill.
On page 9 of the calendar, House Bill number 234 with substitute by Representative Baker relating to school safety.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Van.
Speaker, Representative Baker. Hey, how you doing? You doing okay, Baker?
Doing well, doing very well, thank you.
Can you refresh my recollection about this bill?
Okay, this is a
I think I,
school safety bill. This would provide that the local boards of education will adopt a policy on the use and equipment, that is for designated employees with a mobile emergency rapid response system. They have sort of a long runway to do this. That is, it would be 5 years away. That this would be something to work towards. There are a number of school systems. When I say a number, there's at least I think about 25, 30 schools that already have such systems already in place.
I just needed you to explain to me what you meant by systems.
You're talking about the rapid response system. Okay, this could be a couple of different avenues, perhaps in regards to the technology, and there may be new things being developed. Even that is for those, should this bill pass, for those vendors that might want to enter the market on this. So it could be such as through a button device, where this would be these typically might be worn on a lanyard by an education employee. It could be the custodian. It could be a maintenance worker out cutting the grass on the school campus. But based on the number of touches on that button, that would then allow for school officials and or first responders to be notified immediately of an emergency incident.
Okay.
The other avenue would be such as through perhaps mobile devices such as phones.
Okay, and this is only for my consumption when I'm talking with the schools in the district I represent, and we talk about those life-saving techniques and things of that nature, from whether it be having more school resource officers there versus. And I was trying to see, is this a plan of action? Or that's why I was trying to get the specifics, or is this just a policy and procedure? Will certain instrumentalities be used? That's what I'm trying to get to.
Very, very good. I'll be glad to answer. This goes back to some of my exposure and experiences having served on the first School Safety Commission that was back in 2017 that Chairwoman Collins chaired. And then I later served on the more recent School Safety Commission that Speaker Ledbetter created. And so with that, there's a number of different measures. It's not like there's one silver bullet. Okay, now our schools are all safeguarded. Our students are safeguarded. There'll never be an incident. I don't think we'll ever reach that point. But we can sure take a lot of different measures to try to provide for the most safe environment for students and as well for instruction then to continue. So that's really what this is about.
And you intimated that some school systems already have plans in place?
When we say plan, if you're talking about relative to this bill is dealing with what we call the rapid response emergency technology.
Exactly. It's still that's what I'm trying to get to. Is this a plan, a process that leads to whatever the school system puts in place for the purpose of responding to an emergency situation that happens or occurs?
Right. Yeah, and so with no reflection trying to diminish the value of SROs in the school, and SRO in the school, those are a great resource. So I'm fully supportive of that and such. But in SRO, let's say that they may be in one location on the campus, and then it's where it could be, let's say, a custodian cutting grass out on the school campus, and they happen to have one of these devices that they've become a designated employee to have the device. They notice the strange individual in a trench coat with a long arm rifle walking across the school grounds. They mash their button, and now they're getting immediate attention going. So if you understand.
and again, that's what I'm trying to get to. So you're basically putting in place a particular apparatus that someone would use tied to some common
Technology,
plan
that's correct.
of action. So if someone comes, like you said, across the schoolyard, they have a gun. This person sees them. Are they using something as a?
Correct. That it would either be so that the technology is sort of a little bit open-ended. So what seems to be out there right now would be what they call emergency buttons that would be worn by the designated employees, school employees.
That's all I'm trying to get to. Let me just break it down. I'm slow, but I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get to it. I think I left the bill over there. So is this allowing for an expenditure or for the use of this button that you're speaking of? Is that what this bill is? I'm trying to get to the button, the alert.
Get to the money?
Alert.
Oh,
Are
the
you
alert.
saying that there's going to be an alert?
Yeah. So this would allow for more rapid alert to the appropriate officials, both the school officials as well as first responders.
I'm just trying to get to, once we see that there is someone, the possibility of an active shooter or some other violation, you referenced a button or somebody could press a button.
That's one avenue. It could be on a mobile app that is equipped with the software on that.
That's what I'm trying to get to. So it would be, okay, I got it. I got it. I'm just trying to get to what would be used in the instance that something is happening. There has to be an alert, a button, or something, because if I'm seeing someone 55 yards away from my classroom, what you're saying is we're trying to put the capabilities in place for a teacher, educator to be able to alert someone.
Scoot, let me say, and thank you for, you bring up a very good point. A lot of times we think it's just being relative to the teachers in the classroom. My hope, now it's not required in the bill, it's up to each local school system, the discretion to determine who are the designated employees that would have this type of device.
Okay.
So it could be the custodian, it could be, say, the lunchroom cafeteria worker. If you remember the Uvalde incident, they came in through a back door through the cafeteria.
Yeah, because my thing is, I guess I'm just looking at the fact that if someone's coming on the campus, I was thinking it would be something that every teacher would have in their room, because an attack can come from so many different ways, but you're saying certain people will be designated. But what if no one that's designated sees the attacker?
No, well, my hope or desire, now I did not feel I could embed within the bill that every single education employee, so we're talking about from the bus driver to the dietitian,
Because I like the idea of the app.
Right.
I've had active shooter trainings at several churches within the district I represent over the years. Got a great turnout each time. And so it's just those little things. So that I'm just trying to make it connect as to who would have the alert, how that would work, this, that, and the other. So you're not sure if it will be an app, a number, a button, or something.
The bill tries to be a little bit flexible. Well, not a little, I say a lot flexible in allowing, that is, the technology that's out there. If it conforms, it's got some set criteria, and that is one, that once activated, that now it's where the school officials and appropriate first responders would be alerted. So that's part, and that is, it must be an immediate alert going to them, not like it could be a little, lag time, but.
Okay,
so,
and I'm just asking because I'm gonna check with a couple of the schools in the district I represent that sit in like some valleys that's real dormant. And so I wanna see, I like the concept. I don't have a problem with the bill. I really wanted to get the clarity because of where these particular schools sit in the district I represent. So I don't have a problem with it. I'm just trying to get understanding.
well,
Nothing like understanding around here. I said last year, you killed my dog.
Is there
I'm
something
gonna kill 3 of your cats some kind of way. So I better take my seat.
Is there something I can do to help you better, understand on the clarity?
Oh,
part?
I understand.
Okay.
I understand.
Okay.
I'm glad my mama sent me to school to get a little knife.
Okay.
But we're good.
Okay.
But I am going to take this information back. But I'm hoping that this particular, it's like 2 or 3 schools that I'm hoping will if they don't already have something in place, that they will be one of those schools, or all the schools, I'm assuming, that would take advantage
Right.
of the legislation. I
Right.
think the legislation is really good legislation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I didn't want to ambush you up here, because I was ambushed today.
Thank you. I much appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure, thanks, lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Houston, Chairman Lee.
Hey, real quick question. All right, now, are we mandating this to
This
happen?
would become a requirement with what I call sort of a long runway, 5 years. So schools already required to have school safety policies in place, everything from incident control, I mean, all sorts of different things that's part of their school safety policy. So this would need to be something that's incorporated as a priority within the school policies to be working towards. So it doesn't mean they've got to have it this year, next year, but to be working towards that to try to have this.
For example, our system has, I guess, with some of the monies that came through COVID and all that, and they've used their monies for a program like this already. It's not exactly like it. And I think there's an amendment coming. For example, if we have to follow this to the T, where it says location information to the room and floor level, what we're doing now does it per room, but not necessarily floor level. The room, I guess, tells you what the floor level is, and our cost would be even more additional monies with a working good system now. But if we adopt this the way it is, it's going to cost us more money, because we were good about going out, when the monies came, to use it appropriately and found a good device that works. Now, how is that going to affect my school system?
Well, that's where it's there. Well, one, the bill has been revised. I mean, with this, originally it just had the wearable devices and all, which most would say, well, that's just the buttons and all. But there were those then that wanted to make sure that there would be the possibility of mobile devices that could be one of the avenues. But now the mobile device must be on the person's, in their personal possession. So, because this goes beyond just the classroom. So whether they're out on the playground, whether they're out on the athletic fields, band practice fields, so any of the incidents that might occur, then where there needs to be quick, rapid response.
I'm not
for that.
Yeah.
So
I'm not questioning
yeah.
the need, and I think the one they have does. But there, one particular thing that they said, it just didn't tell the floor level. However,
Right.
it told the room.
Right.
But
Well-
we're talking about monitoring from $2,000 to $8,000 or $10,000 per month. So that's the difference in all the additional
right.
equipment that it's going to take to be able to do the floor level. And for different buildings, that can add up quite a bit of cost.
Yeah, and you make a good point with that. I appreciate you, coming and speaking on that. I'll say this has been something sort of been batted back and forth over the last several days on this. It actually began to arise a little bit maybe last week. That is maybe whether striking some of the language. And so it comes down to sort of, I guess, using the word quality or the standard. The higher standard would try to have the more accurate, more precise location if you want to try to get the most rapid response. I mean, but you understand that, right?
I do.
Okay,
I do.
but to your point, I think, is that but there is a cost that goes with that, because it does require, a little bit more technology to be able to give the floor levels beyond just the room and all. So that's sort of been bounced back and forth on that. So that's where I have been quite engaged with what I call sort of the education family entities, everything from school superintendents to class to school board association, different entities out there that deal more with the logistics of the schools and their operations, and getting their thoughts on it. And so they've somewhat seemed to suggest, I guess, sort of maybe 2.5 of those. One of the entities expressed maybe about half and half, maybe half, yeah, we'd like for the better, higher threshold. Others, no, we'd like for maybe more, that is, lesser quality with accuracy and all, but less expensive as well.
Well,
So
but
that's
right
sort of
now,
where
the
I've
way
been.
it's written, it pretty much ties our hand where we can't make any decisions when it comes to that particular part.
Well, not to my understanding. To my understanding, based on asking about different vendors that could make that, that would be able to do that.
Well, they may be able to. I don't question them being able to do it. I'm questioning what's working now and the investment that they put in Now they're going to have to go and reinvest or either add to what they're doing to hit one of these requirements that are here.
That could be.
And it may come, but, you know, I kind of think that sometimes the local folks need to make a little bit of the decisions rather than us make them here.
Yeah, I'm with you to that. But I guess where it is like, do you want the higher quality standard for more accuracy on the location, for more rapid response, or open it up more, that is, or restrict it more, so that now there's going to be a little less accuracy, and maybe it might delay some of the response time? So I guess that's why. So I've been struggling with that. I'll be very honest with you, going back and forth.
And I think there's an amendment coming, but I just would like the local system to have a little bit more input on I mean, every school's different. And so, if, you know, I think the question will also be, if there's something that's going to happen at a school, that's police department or SWAT team, they're going to come in and sweep the place anyway. You already know, particularly the area that they're in with the system that we have, they're going to go in. It doesn't matter if you tell them they're in room 303. They're going to go all the way down that hall, and they're going to check every room.
Yeah, if it's an active shooter situation. But that's one of the things with the beauty of this bill, and you make a really good point. I'm glad that you alluded to it, and that is every school campus is a little different. And so that's the thing that I love about this technology. So whether it be a button, whether it be a mobile device, is that this now allows this to be, I mean, school-wide, campus-wide. So whether it be outside on the playground.
The geofencing part, I know.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson, Representative Hendricks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. My only concern is, I guess I want to ask about the device itself. Because, and then not only the device, who all will be able to obtain this device? So do you know what type of device?
Okay,
device?
it is stated within the bill, the State Department of Education would then create the list of eligible vendors based on the legislation, which on the legislation, I can read it, it's not particularly long on it, but it does state that so the devices upon activation must connect immediately, then directly to the locally serving public safety, point. So
Local law enforcement?
yeah, right.
And I guess, and the reason why I'm asking this question is because a lot of incidents happen, majority of incidents happen because I was a school resource officer for 7 years, right? Majority of the incidents happen in the classroom and also in the lunchroom. So that's why I'm asking who else will be able to have access to this particular device? Are the school resource officers in the picture as well?
The bill, that's what I left open-ended for the schools to make that discretion. My desire would be as many of those individuals, because I think for the schools to be at their heightened, level of alertness and awareness, I would hope that, so whether it be the head cafeteria worker there, so as the trucks unload in and out of that opening, whether it be the custodian cutting grass, whether it be the coaches out on the field, whether it be the band director out on the band practice field, whether it be the teacher in the classroom, whether it be the custodian that's sweeping the halls while classes are in progress. So I think the more eyes and ears to be able to have that is so that officials can be notified. It's more about rapid response than anything. And I think with the rapid response, well, in Georgia, they had an incident in which these devices were used. Now, there were 4 deaths, 2 students, 2 teachers. There would have been many more deaths had there not been a rapid response based on that.
And I agree, because we had a situation that, not that particular situation, but we had a situation like that happened at one of our high schools in Birmingham, to where if it wasn't for a certain alert that we got, and also the kids, they was able to make some phone calls because they had their cell phone, we probably would never been able to have the opportunity to respond rapidly because of the situation at hand. But I will say that you need to put that the SROs and also the local law enforcement, they need to be a part of this particular,
Oh,
you know,
great, fully, yep.
because, and also they need to have a say-so because those are the ones that have to respond to these, you know, situations at hand because 9 times out of 10, the teachers and the principals and all of them, they're not going to respond. What's going to happen is these days, they're going to go in their classroom, in their offices and make their phone calls and local law enforcement, they're the ones going to respond. Now, you might have some that have a security team. They might respond depending on if they, you know, hire agents with weapons, but most of the time, they're not going to respond. So the only ones at that particular time is going to respond is the SROs is already on campus. And then once we get on the radio, let them know what we got going on. Then you got your next beat officer.
Right.
And after that, you got your other neighbor
Certainly.
agencies and all that stuff that's coming as well.
Right.
So in terms of the device, I think we need to look at the device piece because the teachers already got 1,000 things going on. And to keep up with this big button or whatever it is,
No,
it's
a bad. It's just.
and
a
that's why I
lane.
asked exactly what is it and how would they be carrying this particular device.
Right. I'm saying some. If you're talking about the button technology, it's really based on where many teachers have on their lanyard, then basically their badge. It may be something they have to swipe going in and out of school or such. And
Okay.
so it's where it's worn with their badge. It's just and then they've got the button device. It's very simple, small devices right there. So it's wearable, it's with them, and at all times. And I'll say that this goes beyond just the active shooters. In fact, in my home county, I've got 2 of my 3 public school systems. Then 2 of them already have such technology already in place. One of which actually had to use it 2 years ago out on the playground. Not an active shooter situation, but immediately first responders were alerted to a child choking on a rock on the playground.
So let me ask you this, when can whoever have this device, when can they push this button?
That's where the training's part of this as well. So it's not just getting the devices, they have at it. I mean, so there's training that goes with these devices. So each device would be somewhat unique to each vendor in regards to the number of times it is pressed and such as that.
So if a kid have a weapon on campus, would they be able to push this device?
Yeah, based on the policy and training, yes, then yeah. So once these are accessible then to the designated school employees, which I would hope as many as possible become those eyes and ears for whatever the situations would be, then yeah, then they have that ability to press.
But I think we need to make that clear, seriously, on when can this particular person or stakeholder push this particular device because you do have a lot of people on campus that come on campus because a lot of these schools are not properly secured, to be honest with you. You have a lot of doors and side doors that's open where kids leave a lot of doors open, and then you have a lot of people that's, you know, come off the street, come onto campus. So I think we need to make clear on, for one, who can have this device and what reasons why they need to push this device, and then who all responding and all that stuff. But honestly, I think it'll be a good bill, but there's a few things that we need to clean up. And if you'll allow me to, you know, if I can, we can talk a little bit offline and try to add some more to it. I think it'll be a good bill.
Okay. So one of the ones you keep mentioning, like the SROs, I would think that would be one of the first designated employees that most school systems might.
Say it again.
You mentioned about SROs. I would think that SROs would be one of the first that most school systems would designate as one of their employees to make sure they had it.
Most definitely.
So yeah.
Yeah, SRO, they most definitely need to have this device.
But once again, that discretion is left up to the local schools to make that determination. That is on really the device that they use.
See, that there bothers me. If you leaving up to the superintendent or the principal or whoever to decide whether SROs can have this device or not, that's a problem. Because I think they need to know if a teacher or a janitor or whoever puts this device, they need to be the first ones to know so they can know that they need to respond to an emergency situation.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So
I think that they would be a part of that alert system.
Yeah. And I think they need to have this device as well. Like seriously.
Right.
I don't disagree. If they need to
all.
respond to this incident, this emergency incident, they need to have this device as well, and that's
I
critically
don't disagree
important.
whatsoever. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Collins of Morgan, be the 4th speaker on the BIR.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Speaker. I also want to thank you for this bill. I know we've worked on it really hard. We've tried to make sure that we've included anything. This was one of the #1 recommendations that came out of the School Safety Commission, and I appreciate your work on this bill.
Thank you so much, Representative Collins. Once again, thank you for all of your work.
Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Lock the machine. The core of the votes, 93 yeas, 3 nays, 6 abstentions. The BIR is adopted. Chair recognizes Representative Harrison of Lauderdale.
Mr. Speaker, at the appropriate time, I do want to make this, Mr. Speaker, at the appropriate time, there is a sub that we need to take up. So I just want to make sure that we take up. There's a committee sub. Yeah, right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, I didn't know. I didn't know there needed to be further discussion before we adopt the sub. That's all. I'm sorry.
Question for the body's adoption of the sub. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Have all the members voted? Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes, 96 yeas, 3 nays, no abstentions. The substitute is adopted. The chair further recognizes the gentleman, Representative Harrison of Lauderdale, on the sub.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Baker, explain to me line 53 through 60. It says the State Board of Education shall develop a list of approved vendors from which each governing body may purchase approved mobile emergency rapid response systems. No vendor may be approved if the vendor manufactures any covered equipment or services as determined by the Federal Communication Commission's list of equipment and services covered by that section. I didn't look up that section. Can you briefly tell me what that's about?
Yeah, I had to ask myself, as LSA Legal Division, then they do their sort of work.
Yeah.
Once we submit, then the concepts for bills and legislation. And so this was something that was a part of of technology as it relates to the federal government that was inserted by legal staff from LSA.
Okay.
So that's the best I can explain to you on that. Yeah, so it was something that was required for that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Rim of Henry County.
Thank you for recognition, Mr. Speaker. Chairman Baker, I'm here because my school superintendents are adamantly opposed to this for Henry County, Houston County, and the city of Dothan schools. Yesterday, the executive director of SSA publicly stated how problematic this bill was for them because it was an unfunded mandate, the additional cost without the funding, the lack of local control.
And what did you just say? What was your last comment?
The lack of local control, because
I think there's a lot of local control we've already been referencing in the bill.
Well, one of the issues, like in the city of Dothan, and Paul Lee mentioned, we have a system in which is GPS based. It's like a phone, okay, and that's what they chose to use. If in this bill, it requires that the system provides accurate location information to the room and floor level. Okay? To be able to accurately find the room is a different type of equipment that would be required to pick out the floor level. The issue with that, most of our schools, I think in the state of Alabama, only have one floor. In order to have a system that can tell which floor an individual's on, cannot use just GPS alone. You need to have an antenna-based system, which would, have exorbitantly more cost. Like, for instance, I think the city of Dothan's cost is about $2,000 a year. The last estimate that I've got from a system that would do the floor is like $8,000. I've heard anywhere like $8,000 a year. And I've heard numbers, north of that.
Can I speed up the process for us, if you don't mind?
No, sure.
Okay. You and I have already discussed some on this, I think your issue and all. And although we could sort of, I guess, let others hear a lot of what we've already discussed, I think we could speed this up more quickly. I think that you're going to have an amendment to offer and all. And so we could forego some of the, I guess, other procedural matters on this. I'll say with that, I think relative to what we've got is, that is for the members of the body to make their decision if they want then sort of a heightened then quality or threshold with more accuracy that's at maybe a higher cost. That is, may not be quite as many choices on that in terms of vendors, that is, versus then less accuracy, but more choices with that and all, and more affordable. So I want to make sure, okay?
I have an amendment.
Clerk will receive the amendment.
Amendment to House Bill number 234 by Representative Ream.
Speaker, this amendment would replace lines 33 through 34 on page 2. Which says provides accurate location information to the room inside the facility and to specific areas that. What it does is it ends up removing the 3 words and floor level. Also, the amendment replaces line 44 on page 2. It just adds on line 44 after warn, it adds a similar language that's on page 33 where it says, or in the personal possession of the individual which. And all that's saying, Chairman, is that, it's not wearable. It's more of a clerical cleanup of the bill. But the intent of the amendment is to remove and floor level. And that way it will allow more flexibility in which type of system the school system actually decides to use. If they want to go with a less expensive GPS model like they're using in the city of Dothan now, or if they want the more elaborate where they have to bring in antennas and bring it up, at least it gives them the flexibility to do that, but it doesn't mandate that system.
Right. That is correct. So with that, on the amendment, I told you that in talking with the education family, many of them somewhat, including the school superintendents, seem to be a little bit divided on theirs. I know relative to your area region that you have, and you have many then that have reached out to you then quite strongly on that. So I very much recognize that. But having said all that then, I would then submit to the group then, it seems like the heightened quality might be what is desired by many. So with that then, I will be voting no on the amendment, but I do leave it open to the body to make that choice or decision on that. So once again, with that, it's where either there's the more heightened accuracy to leave the language as it is intact with floor and room left in there, or remove that, and which does open up some other options, that is for systems that might be, as you say, may be more affordable, but the accuracy is not as precise.
So is it a friendly or non-friendly amendment?
Well, I guess if I had in semantics then and saying friendly or unfriendly then, I would treat it as unfriendly in the fact that I think the heightened quality seems to be better. But once again, I'm agreeable to entertain this amendment then to allow the members then to vote on that where there would be. But I think the more accuracy would be the better in my book.
We have some lights on, so with that, Chair recognizes Representative Ellis of Shelby. Are you here to talk about the amendment?
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Pro Tem. Representative Ream, thank you for bringing the amendment. I just want to clarify, make sure I understand. So this would give more local control to your local superintendents on the type system.
So what this would do would allow a greater amount of vendors.
Right.
That, product that they can offer, and more competition brings costs down.
Right.
So that would give the flexibility. If a school district wants the more expensive bang for their buck, that's their call. But in Henry County, say, we're a little bit less affluent, they may want to just go with that GPS-based.
Yeah.
So that's what the intent of my amendment is, to give more flexibility, but it will bring in a greater amount of vendors that would qualify. By having those three words and floor level, it blocks out a lot of these products.
Right. Well, and I appreciate you bringing the amendment. I was fairly certain that it gave that extra flexibility and would bring costs down, and for that reason, I'm supportive of your amendment. So thank you for bringing it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Hall. Okay. Chair recognizes Representative Bracy from Mobile. Do you want to speak on the amendment? Okay. Chair recognizes Representative Easterbrook of Washington County to speak on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
I yield.
Where is the money going to come from to pay for this?
Well, right now, that's another issue I have. This is an unfunded mandate. I'm just trying to make the bill better.
And when we go to multiple floors, how many schools do we have in the state that have multiple floors? And I have three superintendents in my district, and they're all opposed to it because they don't have anything with multiple floors, and they have a panic button already. So,
I believe I have one school in the district that has more than one floor. All the rest are single floor.
and where's law enforcement on this?
So, in a discussion with a law enforcement officer, they said whether they know which floor it is or not, if it's an active shooter, they're going to treat that building in a certain way with a clean sweep anyway. They're not going to assume that wherever that alarm went off, that's where the active shooter is. Now, there are situations, it could be a heart attack, an injury or something, and that could possibly, add a different a point about, where they are. But again, that's a lot of money for a lot less bang for your buck, to be able to tell what the floor is. Well, and a lot of these systems, though, too, like the GPS system that Dothan has, they already know where that teacher's located. It comes up, teacher so-and-so is in room so-and-so, or coach so-and-so is over here. So in a way, they do have a knowledge of where the floor is, but not necessarily because of a triangulation of a position like GPS.
Where is the Association of School Superintendents on this?
So they have not taken, they have not opposed this, but they're not endorsing it. And I know the executive director of SSA spoke negatively about it yesterday. Said it was, unfunded mandate, the cost, and the lack of local control. Because last year we put up a lot of restrictions, a lot more requirements on them, and they've been advocating for us to do less, give them more flexibility. So,
I know that I have three school systems that are three different counties with school systems that they struggle for money. And that's their biggest issue is they have spent the money to have what they call a panic button, I guess you would call it. And local law enforcement tells them that's all they need, that they would take care of that. But with this, they would be required to have a system that would tell them what floor they're on, and there's only one floor.
Right. May I? And just remember, a GPS system won't tell you the floor. So that means you have to bring in hardware. And that, cost, that hardware has to be maintained. If an antenna breaks, it has to be fixed. So there's a lot to it.
Is there anything in the ETF budget, a line item to cover these expenses?
None that I'm aware of.
So how much money are we talking about?
So my understanding is the GPS system like Dothan is using is about $2,000 a year. I've had varied numbers. Some of the vendors for the antenna-based system says $8,000 a year. I've also heard stories of it being up to $40,000 to $50,000 a year. But it depends on the campus too. So those numbers may be varying because of the size of the campus. It's not just a school; it's football field, track. So that may vary. Why those numbers are
I
varying.
would think it would get expensive if you're going to identify them to the floor level, because the GPS no longer is accurate enough because it doesn't tell you what floor.
Well, and if you are a school system that has a second floor, you have the flexibility if you want to spend more money and get to the system.
Exactly.
But this is, if you vote no on the amendment, you're now mandating schools that have only one floor to have the more expensive system.
And that's where I'm at. My local schools, and I have a bunch of them in each county. I have 16 schools, and none of them have a second floor. They all have panic buttons, and they're all struggling for money. So
That's right.
My three superintendents are opposed to this without the amendment, that they can choose and have local control.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Gavan, do you want to speak on the amendment or the bill? Chair recognizes Representative Gavan of Jefferson.
Representative, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Baker, you're always bringing these bills that we some kind of way that are good bills that we get caught up in with some degree of modification. But I'm just here to try to get the clarity on the amendment. So what does your amendment do?
So on line 34 where it says and floor level, do you have the bill in front of you? Okay.
I memorize bills most of the time.
So on line 34 where it says and floor level, my amendment removes and floor level.
So your bill is saying add floor
My
level.
amendment.
You're adding it.
No, I'm removing
You're removing it, and I'm trying to, okay, so why?
because first of all, the majority of our schools don't have a second floor. If you have a system that can track what floor you're on, it is a greater expense, and the amount of vendors that sell that type of
But
system.
why don't we make it, because you just said something. We have a lot of schools that do have second floors, just depending on where you live.
Right.
Now, more schools probably in rural Alabama may not have second floors, but most of the schools in the district that I represent have second floors. I think I may only have maybe two or three out of the district I represent. So that's why I think the play on that should be modified maybe a little differently, because you're speaking for probably where you are, even elementary schools and middle schools now. Most of the ones that I have, they have multiple floors.
So this amendment does not prevent your schools from having the more, purchasing the more expensive system that tracks floor. All I'm doing is taking out the unfunded mandate for that portion.
You're taking out the what now?
Okay, I'm taking out the unfunded mandate to require a system that tracks which floor you're on.
Define unfunded mandate for me.
But it's in which we pass a rule or regulation that
We did
puts
what now? I can't hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I can't control the room.
You could talk into the mic a
Okay.
little bit further. That's why it's adjustable. If you
All right,
do
here
that-
we go.
Oh, okay. See
Is
what
that any
happens?
better?
That's what technology does for you and equipment. Okay, that's all it takes.
So, you know, an unfunded mandate is what we mandate municipalities, school districts, or whatever to spend money that we're not giving them, that we're not providing them.
Is that the dictionary book definition of a mandate, unfunded mandate? Because I hear that.
You
I
asked,
it's certain words.
you
I
asked
can
my definition, that's what I gave
I
you.
don't never want you to tell me your definition. I want you to tell me the definition.
Well, you're
I
free to
don't- I
look it up.
can't-
I don't
can't-
have
I
a dictionary with me.
I don't ever want you to tell me what you think the definition. I asked what the definition.
All I can do is speak for myself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I asked what it was. I mean, I understand there are some geniuses walking around here, and everything, and I think sometimes that gets to be the problem when it's what your definition of. When I went to school and we had to do spelling and we had to do essays
I'm having
and
trouble
all of
hearing
that
you.
stuff, guess what? I couldn't give the definition of what I thought. I had to give the definition on an assignment of what it was in Webster's dictionary at the time. So I wanted you to tell me what the definition was, but I'm gonna look it up. An unfunded mandate is a law that requires action without providing funds to carry it out. An unfunded mandate can be imposed on state and local governments as well as private businesses. They can put a financial strain. These are the effects. A financial strain on a state or local government. They can make it harder for state and local governments to achieve their goals. So with you saying the magic word of unfunded mandate, my question to you is, are you saying that this would be a strain on the school system that has this one level, no level, whatever, for whatever they may purchase, whether it be some instrumentality, whatever the mechanism or whatever is that, and we still haven't gotten that clarity on that. So you're saying that unfunded mandate would be a strain on the school system.
Well, that could vary from school system to school system. Depends on the wealth of the school system.
I understand it could vary. I said, but your thought process on that is that you want to make sure that we're not putting. You want to make sure we're not putting an unfunded mandate on them.
Well, that is not the intent of the amendment. The intent of the amendment is to at least create some flexibility for school systems that do not have to have a system that tracks the floors.
But you said, I must have missed it. I'm just trying. I'm trying to be nice, because when I start asking questions, and if somebody doesn't know the answer to the question that I'm asking, y'all get upset, y'all go tell the speaker, I humiliated you, I tried to put you on the spot, and I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to get that clarity because you mentioned the unfunded mandate. So my question to you is, you're trying to save whether they, regardless of the size, regardless of the school, or the financial whatever of the school, you're just trying to make sure that we're not putting an unfunded mandate on a school system because of the strength.
In this case, the mandate is a more expensive system.
I got it. And you're trying to amend the system with your
I'm trying to amend the type of,
the type of system,
the type of system.
that is used, and then your words were because some schools or educational institutions, for instance, do not have two floors or multiple floors or whatever. That's what you said.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm just trying to get the clarity and understanding about what you were saying and how it all correlates to this particular piece of legislation. And since you are bringing this amendment, did any school systems ask you to bring this amendment, or are you just bringing it on your own?
This is the desire of my superintendents.
In the district you represent?
Yes.
Okay. See, and you know, I believe in doing that. I don't believe I have a district. I always say the district that I represent, because these seats come available every 4 years, and the people decide if they're going to send us back. And I don't want to just be also defined as a legislator. You know, some people, the first thing off their lips, I'm representative this, I'm Wandling, I'm good. But what I wanted to say is, when we're crafting this type of legislation.
I'm having trouble hearing you. I'm sorry.
Let me talk into the microphone. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You see how I did this though?
Mm-hmm.
And I did this?
Yep.
Okay. I'm a quick study on myself. But I just wanted to say this, and my point on this particular issue is that you mentioned what goes on in your district. You also referenced the fact that many schools do not have but one floor. That's not the case all the time. And all I'm saying is, with legislation like this, especially in the educational field, and that's why when I came up on this bill, I mentioned several schools in the district I represent, because they sit in valleys and whatever, and I support the legislation for that, because they may not have all of the resources, but it's not always a one-size-fits-all, whether you're in rural Alabama or big town Alabama or the big city. You know, people talk about Wall Street, but we have to deal with Main Street from where we come from, and this is Main Street. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Baker.
Thanks so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would move at this time then to carry the bill over for further discussion.
There's been a motion to carry the bill over. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. The bill is temporarily carried over. Chair recognizes Representative Witt for motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to ask to suspend the rules and allow for the leave of the House and allow the Economic Development and Tourism Committee to meet in room 123, where we will be discussing bills 145 and 311 that has a public hearing with it. Thank you.
You've heard the question before the body. Suspension of the rule. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Ayes have. The rules have been suspended. Chair recognizes Chairman Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, thank you for your patience on HB 202. As you know, it'll be number one up on the calendar in the morning. Appreciate all the work from both sides of the aisle to make this bill better. I've got the final sub that also includes the latest two committee subs, and we've got fresh copies up here, and just want to make sure everybody had the latest version for tomorrow. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Hassel for a 3-minute point of personal privilege.
All right, I'd just like to suspend the rules for a time-sensitive resolution. And this resolution, we have a judge here in Montgomery County that's retiring of 30 years of service, and I'll ask for the adoption of the resolution.
Clerk will read the resolution. Question for the body's adoption of the resolution. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Resolution's adopted. Thank you. Chair will call the next bill. The clerk will call the next bill on the special order calendar.
On page 25 of the calendar, House Bill number 166 with substitute by Representative Halsey relating to public schools.
Representative Halsey? Oh, there you are.
You see what you started, Marcus? I see what you guys started. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, so the Focus Act, or HB 166, which is called the Focus Act, takes a crucial step in protecting students by requiring local school boards to adopt a policy regulating the use and possession of cell phones during instructional time, It directs the Alabama State Department of Education to implement an internet safety policy and mandates a social media safety course before 8th grade. Limiting smartphone use in schools reduces distractions, supports academic success, and fosters healthy socialization. Research links smartphone use to lower academic performance, increased anxiety and distress, with teachers and administrators overwhelmingly supporting restrictions. Department of Mental Health, Commissioner Boswell stated in committee meeting last week, "Rarely do I stand before you and say that there is something that we can do with a stroke of pen to improve the mental health of our youth, but today I am standing in front of you to say this legislation will do that." Schools have a duty to prioritize learning and well-being. This measure ensures that schools fulfill their responsibility to do just that. I do have a sub, but with that, Mr. Speaker, I move the BIR.
We got a few lights. Chair recognizes Representative Hollis of Jefferson.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. Would the lady please yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I told you that I was a little undecided about this bill. And I do have, I have 4 nephews, 1 niece, and 2 bonus grandbabies in school. And one of my concerns is if there is an emergency, I want them to be able to get in touch with their TT Boo or Honey Mom, okay? So, and I know that, I agree that kids should not use their phones in the schools. Right now, my nephew, the one that's old enough to have a cell phone, what he does is he put his cell phone in his book bag and it's in his locker. And he better not take it out unless it's an emergency or he's calling TT Boo to come and pick him up or his mom, someone. So, with that being said, I would like to know what's in place just in case there is an emergency and a kid need to get in touch with a parent or their honey mom or their TT Boo. You know, what is it that's in place for this?
Yes, ma'am. All right, so there are 3 exemptions allowed in this bill. So would you like for me to do all 3 of them or just stick to the one point?
Well, I want to know if my nephew
that is
need to get in touch with TT Boo.
Okay.
Or my grandbabies need to get in touch with Honey Mom.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know if there's an emergency in the school, what's put in place.
So, and absolutely, we took care of that because that is a concern we've heard, and we wanted to make sure that we address that appropriately. So, line 98 through 100 does that. This is an allowable exemption, and it says the use, operation, or possession occurs in an emergency threatening the life or safety of a student or another person. So that is a carved out exemption that definitely allows them, in the event of emergency, something is wrong, to be able to utilize their phones.
So is this bill stating that this bill, that they cannot have a phone within the schools, period?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
They can take the phone on campus. What it does is it sets just basically it's a floor for, we have to turn the phone off.
Okay.
And store it off your person in a locker. You can choose to do it in the car because some schools do actually have some policies and don't even let them come on campus, or a similar storage location. You've got a handful of schools that are using yonder pouches. They're using shoe racks in their rooms. They're allowing it to be in the backpack. Those things are allowed. It just can't be turned on and it can't be on their body.
Okay, so this bill does not prevent them or banning them for bringing the cell phones, period.
Absolutely not. I wouldn't have done that if nothing else, for this one reason. There are some kids that need them for medical reasons. That would be absolutely inappropriate and reckless. So no, this does not do that.
So basically what you're saying is that during class time, they're not allowed to use their phones.
Correct.
Okay. And well, while they're in school, period, unless there's an emergency.
Unless there's an emergency or it's being utilized for educational purposes, or it's in their 504 or IEP plan, because you have quite a fair amount of our kids that are diabetics use it to monitor their blood sugar and then administer medication. We obviously need to make sure those things are in place. So those 3 exceptions are the allowances.
So I saw that it stated that they cannot use their laptops or other wireless devices. So the iPads that kids have in school or computers, is that exempt?
Those are exempt. Anything that is a district-owned device is separate, and it's covered under a separate portion of this bill. And those are allowed completely. We're not removing Chromebooks, iPads, the things that the schools have already provided and they've been using. This is not in this. We're talking about your personal laptop. We're talking about the glasses, like anything that you bring personally that's your possession, not a school-issued device. If it can connect to the wire, like the internet, you just got to turn it off and store it off your body.
Okay. So basically what this is, we can't use our cell phones, talking about kids, during class time. What about during lunchtime?
This does not allow for it at any time.
So period, we didn't have phones when I was in school, but anyway.
Me
But
either.
period, so the phones are not allowed in school, but they can bring them to school. They have to put them up in their book bags, in their locker, or whatever the school decides.
Whatever the school decides, that's up to the school.
But
Yes, ma'am.
if it's an emergency, the kid can get to their phones.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else you want
Absolutely.
to tell me about this bill?
Do what now?
Anything else you want to tell me about this bill?
I would really love your support. Ultimately, my biggest concern is how phones are impacting our kids at schools and the data that is out there, which there's a pamphlet at all of your desks to see some of that, but I could honestly go on and on about the data. It's alarming what is coming out of just the surveys as it relates to, I mean, kids are accessing at school pornography on their phones. They're bullying each other.
Yeah.
They are doing some pretty horrific things that I think people don't know, and we just want to protect them from that.
Right, and I think
on
we
school
need to do
premises.
more as far as the bullying and social media, because when I was in school, it was a he said, she said thing, and now, you know, if a kid puts something on their phones or social media, it goes to all the kids, you know. So we got to do something about the bullying in the schools. So yeah. So and what else you had to tell me about the bill? I want my whole 10 minutes.
You want your whole 10 minutes? All right, what do you want? Do you want statistics? You want me to just read statistics?
So what motivated this bill?
Quite honestly, I've been studying and working on this issue for over a year. And what motivated it is it broke my heart to see what was happening. And it was something, once I realized how bad it was, I couldn't in good conscience step back and do nothing and ignore it. I would feel terrible. I would feel bad.
So they're allowed to bring their phones to school.
That is a good point. I think you'll love this. I love this. So last year when I had this in committee, one of the schools here in Montgomery is doing a pilot program. They were at the time, I think they were somewhere between a year and 18 months into the pilot program, and said it was doing incredible things. So recently, we got back up with this Montgomery school system that's doing this program. They're using Yonder pouches. Their grades have skyrocketed, but the most impressive statistic that came out of that is their discipline, like office referrals for discipline, is down over 80%. So we've got systems that are doing this. They're not all doing it, and they're not all doing it consistently. Yes,
no disturbance.
It is producing better academic outcomes and safer environments for our kids.
Okay. I can get with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the debate we've had today, but due to time constraints, I move that the House stand adjourned.
You've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Ayes clearly have it. We are adjourned.